get a little apartment, 2 bedroom, something like 4,600 a month. It's just renting. Jesus, I get 4,600 a month. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's again for an apartment. You don't. It's a nice apartment. But it's not like there's a gym included. There's a big pool. No. It's a nice place.
That's it.
But that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Do you live in San Francisco or no? Do you live in San
No,
Francisco?
no. What I
Yeah, you
I've
know
been
about.
yeah.
Whereabouts do you live?
I live in Ottawa, Canada.
Ottawa, okay. Oh, Canada. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a bit cheaper.
Yeah. So that's a French. It's French Canadian actually.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny, but we have
Nice
the
place though.
yeah.
Yeah.
A bit colder, but I
It's
like
a lot
it.
colder,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I moved to Ottawa, which for me is south in Canada, because I used to be in Quebec City.
Oh, wow, that's it, yeah.
So it's
really
much
cold.
colder,
Yeah.
much colder.
Or at 4 2 I will leave for a conference.
No worries.
So don't feel personal.
No. If it's only me and him, I'm fine with that as well. No worries. Okay. All set.
I'll do your introduction.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good afternoon to everyone again. My name's John Rakowski, Director of Product Marketing here at AppDynamics. So next up, we've got Phil Bedard, nearly, yeah, from Halogen Software. And he's going to be talking all about their implementation of or adoption of AppDynamics. So looking at how application performance has become the modus operandi, how application performance impacts your workforce, and how compliance and privacy should be treated in the operational design stage. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Phil for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here. I know it's late in the day, 2 more sessions, and you're off to the drinks. So before we get going, I have to say we love AppDynamics. We do not officially endorse AppDynamics, and nothing in there is an actually forward-looking statement with regards to our performance or future performance of the organization. So now the legal people are happy. Given it's this late, I'll try to go through fairly quickly. Our look at AppDynamics is not rocket science. A lot of good talks here about the technical aspect of the implementation. Because we're an HR company, our look and how we look at the ROI is slightly different. It's really about our people first. And this is a part of how we look at our implementation, the impact on our people. And that's what I'm going to go through. We started using AppD in 2013. Like a lot of folks, maybe some of you, we started when the house was on fire. When there's an issue, say, okay, we need to find a way to look at the problem. And there was a tool that was AppD. And it stayed like that until 2015. In 2015, we came to San Francisco, we met with the AppD team, Bhaskar, and a lot of very smart people. And following that meeting, we realized, you know what? There might be an opportunity to use AppD to solve some of our problems that relates to our business. I'll talk about it later. But helping our people, given all the issues we have with driving our compliance framework as a Saas vendor. So that's where the lights turned on. We said, okay, this is beyond technology, maybe a way of operating. When we went through that, the big factor was it was not technical. We already loved the product, we used it a bit. It was really the vision, where things were going, the problem they were trying to solve, and also how we could implement that in our framework as a Saas vendor. So quickly, this is the engine of the day. We should go through that. You'll notice a team. Our team they're pretty big fan of Games of Thrones, so you're going to notice a little something there. Had to do that for them. The idea about what we're going to talk today, first I'm going to go through Halogen, our problems, and after that how we implement it. First, Halogen, we're focused next generation performance management, talent management in general, so you think about learning, recruiting, performance development, succession, things like that. The brand of the company is customer experience, customer satisfaction. You look at all the reviews, this is not a good year. This has been pretty much every year since I've been at Halogen, so you look at all the analysts in the industry, it's just who we are. People who love Halogen Software really love Halogen Software. And again, our look at all this was really about the engagement of your employees. And our employees were highly engaged, but as we accelerated, increased velocity, we were concerned that the amount of change in operations would impact our operation people. The zombies there, this is actual marketing stuff that we put out there. We're highly convinced that if your people are not engaged, they're as good as zombies. At some point, they're walking their own, but that's pretty much it. So when we look at the, sorry, through my notes here. We've got roughly 2,000 customers. One key differentiator for Halogen is we offer the same product on-premise and SaaS. A bit uncommon. Some of our competitors have an offering for both. It's different products. In our case, when we build a product, it has to run SaaS and on-premise in a similar fashion to AppDynamics. That's one point we have in common. It's unique perspective. Those 2,000 customers, they're mostly SaaS. We have certain numbers. Actually don't even know the exact number, some percentages on-premise. That's how the company started. The switch happened in 2007 when we moved to SaaS. So we're based out of Canada and publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So if you look for a ticker, just look on a TSX, not on a NASDAQ. Our stack is fairly standard enterprise stack. So we're Java shop, Oracle on the back end. Really not, again, because we support both on-premise and SaaS, you can't easily go and tell your customer, go deploy Hadoop, Kafka, and everything on their own. We have very standard stack there. Same code line runs everywhere, both of them, SaaS and on-premise. This here. The deployment is global, so we serve all those customers in a large number of countries. It's 24/7. We operate out of London and Ottawa, where our team is located. So again, 24/7. The one point here is we use a CDN, so a high percentage of our product is actually is cacheable, which brought interesting perspective in the use of AppDynamics, because you see the performance and the behavior of your CDN a bit differently when you use AppDynamics in that perspective, because AppDynamics doesn't run on Akamai, as an example. So it's a different perspective there as well, which brought some key benefit for us as well. So we operate out of 2 data centers, fully provisioned, redundancy. We've got AppD set up in both sides should we need to recover. That's fairly basic. The dude, so I was told I had to talk about myself, so I'm going to do that quickly. The most interesting part is at the bottom, actually about the team. So been in the business for quite a while, started as a developer a long, long time ago. Since then, we got smart people who do the real work, and I'm not one of them. We got people who are in the room who do the real magic. The one thing I want to point out here is the way we look at SaaS. It's a bit harsh, a bit tough on people, but we're like roadies. The star is the software. We exist for the software. At the end of the day, the only thing we can do like roadies is crew up the show. No one's going to pay to see the roadies, no matter how good they are. You know, if the star moves in a different direction, the spotlight needs to follow. We're just there to make the show happen. Every month starts, you know, from there, you're 100% up. It can only go down. The moment you accept that, you know, it's already better, because it's part of the reality. You press the reset button every month, but the reality is you can only screw it up. So accept that, and that's the way we actually look at deploying AppD. It's supporting that show. It's enabling our developers. In 21st century, we strongly believe that, you know, developers are the currency of the 21st century, and somehow everyone's becoming a developer. They teach it in schools very early. Everyone's learning to develop. So you need to enable your people. They're not cheap. They're hard to find. You need to enable them to deliver the best business outcome for your business. So that was the angle for us. The look, when you increase the velocity, is not only running 24/7, is faster operations, is increased complexity. At this point, it's where your developers get to know more about the product. than your application administrators. It's you can't know everything. In the old world, old school enterprise world, you would go test stuff through multiple environments. It would take a while. In today's world, if you want to push even just to release a data production, the time you've got is limited, and making sure the process to go from development to production is smooth makes a big difference. So, in our case, and the first thing, the title is not a typo, it's actually a quote. We'll see that later. In our world, data privacy is king. It's not our data, it's our customers' data. We don't own that, it's theirs. So it's slightly different than maybe other companies because whatever they do with the software belongs to them. It's not ours. So you think about 2,000 customers, it's 2,000 different data sets that do not belong to Halogen. They belong to their respective owners. So the access is also a big deal. When we made our decision, I was talking about 2015, at that point in time, our focus for Saas was supporting growth and also profitability. So we're a Canadian company, so slightly conservative. We're not a Bay Area all out, let's burn a ton of cash. We had to be smart about this. And we still made the decision to go with AppDynamics because that helped support our profitable perspective and how we operated. At the same time, 2015 is when we transitioned our development team from a traditional waterfall approach to agile. So that was actually what drove the transition. As we drove that in, that's when it started to hurt our people. As our people, I'm talking our SaaS operations people, supporting increased velocity, number of builds. And that was really, again, the angle. Okay, how do I make this sustainable for our people without doubling, tripling our staff? And how do I enable my developer through self-service, visibility, to keep pushing everything forward without feeling the pain of going through the process? So with that regard, we decided to look at thinking differently. After that meeting with AppD in San Francisco, we said, you know what? Let's try to unify how we look at performance, end to end. We can't change a reality. We got thousands of customers. Everyone's got a contract. It's their data. That reality can change. How do we deploy that with AppD so that we speed up the process? And like everybody else, we have strict segregation of duty, so that's a compliance factor. We have a SOC 2 Type 2, which is similar to an ISO 27000. That couldn't go away. We had to accept that. It's a reality. It's what our customer wants. It's the business. And in that context, it drove a lot of the issues that were hurting the team, the access. Sorry, you can't access the production. You can't see it. And our customer, they're very smart. 2,000 of them, the beauty of our product is you can do a lot of things with it. One challenge with our product is you can do a lot of things with it. Our customers are smart. Trying to create and reproduce everything they could do with it, nearly impossible. And as you add customer, you're adding one extra data set that you didn't think of. You thought you knew about it, but they figured out something else. So trying to test all of that also became an issue. Our QAs are great. They're running thousands of tests, great quality people. But again, trying to plan for everything, nearly impossible. So we ended up with issues that were hard to debunk and where the process was, again, hard on the people. It get tedious and you feel it. The engagement starts to go down on your developers when they know it's going to be painful to go through an issue resolution. And for us, that was, again, the angle. You don't want your developers to look back at, okay, I need to look at this issue. It's hurting my customer, but I know it's going to be a pain to go through it. So as we go through that, the engagement equation for us, and that's, I'm not the PhD in HR. We have some of those people on our staff. That's how you look at engagement. Halogen is all about people matter most, actually. That's our line. People matter most when with talent. At the end of the day, an engaged workforce will drive great business outcomes. So for developers, their contribution, so do they feel like they contribute to the business? And their satisfaction to actually do it. And that's the hard part. It's one thing to say I'm able to fix this problem. Am I satisfied? Did I like my work? Did I like going through that process? For us, again, different perspective, HR people, that's what's becoming an issue. And that's where you get into retention issue. And okay, people don't want to do it anymore. They want to switch jobs. Average people in IT stay in a job, less than 5 years? It's very expensive. And we're all about building, churning down. So we didn't want to see that happening in our own business. So that's where AppD came in. Our look was to say, okay, how do we really enable our developers? Because some of the stuff that we do, when you look at it, it's exactly the opposite of what DevOps is. I mean, no access for developers in production, limited visibility. That kind of goes against DevOps. Still, we had to enable our developers to look at the issues and feel like, you know what, it's a bit like DevOps. I'm working in that 21st century organization. We also look at, this is not only a great product, for some developers and engineers, it's a nice toy as well. It's part of stuff that a lot of companies will have once in a while. Say, oh, we've got a couple of nodes monitored. It's a bit different ballgame to say, you know what, we did walk the walk. We went through the whole thing. So we're Canadian, so GSD here means get software done. I guess for some people it might mean something else. For us, it's just get software done. So that's really how we looked at it. Driving the engagement of our developers and our people, both from an operations standpoint as well, to increase our velocity and maintain the compliance our customers were looking for. This is maybe similar to any enterprise stack. You guys have seen multiple environments. Your developers, you have a number of roles. The developers, your QA have limited access in different environments. Your production people have full access in other environments. Everyone knows the equation. The sooner you find a bug, the cheaper it is to solve it. So obviously, you don't want to find in production. That's where it's going to have the most impact. At the same time, there's nowhere you release more software than your dev environment. Developer will push a ton of builds every day. It's just the nature of the business. So same way, our customers do not want our developers to access their data. They trust us with their employees' data. Not only their employees' data, their performance. So their salary, there's a ton of information they trust us with. So they don't want everyone in the company to have access to that. And that's the model. So we looked at it with that set of eyes, but still, we were having the issue I mentioned earlier. They're very creative. Our dev and QA people work with, I call it dummy data, call it test data, number of data set we build, still not what our customers are doing. And I would tell you, all our customers have a different way of using our product. Some of them similar, but everyone is unique. They all have their own idea. So you'll notice as well, the velocity is different. Much higher in development is in production, but the impact on having an issue is actually lower. So when you look at that, our mean time to resolution was impacted by the fact the data set was different in both environments. But that was a reality we accepted we couldn't change. We didn't try to fight the system and say we're going to give developer access to production. We said, okay, how do I work with AppD to make the process seamless without providing access? The same way, we can change velocity. I mean, not sure our customers, we're not Facebook, so we don't need to push 8 or 10 builds a day in production. We have to deliver quickly. We have to get the business value to our customers as we release new software. But we always go faster, because Agile is about failing and failing fast and recovering from those failures. But most of that is still happening in development. Some of it will be in production, but the reality is most of the time it's development in QA. So with that pane of glass, we said, okay, debunking issues is hard. When you look at it, and we're in Vegas, some of it is a bit like being drunk. You can't see straight. And when you're doing your diagnostic, you can't go straight to that path. No, I need to go to this process, talk to that guy. It's pretty hard. And the thing when you're drunk like that, you don't feel bad, it just looks bad because it takes forever to solve the issue. The other look at it is actually the worst one, is the hangover. That's when the issue hurts your back infrastructure. It doesn't hurt the customer. You feel terrible. You just want to be over it. You're allocating more and more resource just to keep the product alive. That's the hangover part of it. Being drunk can be okay. I'm going to go back to the quote I had earlier. If it was easy to be drunk all the time, everyone would be doing it. That's a quote from Games of Thrones. But that's a concept. We couldn't sustain that anymore. We can let our people venture from process A to process B. How do I obfuscate customer data to let them go from, okay, you have enough so you can actually do a diagnostic, but you don't get to see anything. Well, the data is for the most of it, what a customer do not want our developers to see. That's a reality. So we had to get out of that drunk state. So the way we looked at it is first, we brought AppD in, and we said, okay, we're going to bring them in as a third party, so there's value for us to have someone who's not part of the process, a fresh set of eyes. Someone who knew the product wouldn't necessarily have all the answers about our processes as the secret sauce at Halogen. But someone who's really looking at it is how do we deploy our product to solve those issues. So, we say at Halogen, feedback is a gift. So we organize a lot of sessions to get the pain point from the people. Obviously, a gift, usually don't turn it back. You don't yell at people who give you a gift, you just take the gift. So we got the feedback from a number of groups. We involved a lot of people. Performance people, QAs, developers, SaaS operations people, to get all the pain points. We didn't think we would be successful by having something where this would be a management type of idea. So we then looked for champions in every group. We said, okay, this must be a project that's driven by our experts. We're not the one. It can be management going somewhere, talking with AppDynamics, saying this is going to solve everything, cure cancer. No, we thought it was an idea. We were highly convinced it could help us solve our velocity issues, if I can put it like that. But as we introduced the idea to our experts and our champions internally, they're the one who bought it. And that was key to us. So we worked with them. We did a lot of sessions. We identified a lot of low-hanging fruits. We also lined out everything we wouldn't change, like the fact that we wouldn't get the developer in production. And we said that. But that brought the idea of you to say, let's look at this like ITIL. The first thing ITIL does is to standardize a language, the way you talk about things. So the way you look at performance should be standardized. So by pushing AppD to development, QA, and production, although it was not one set of controllers, it was still one way of looking at the issue. You have great tools like the war rooms and all that, but just having one way to talk about it, to turn every conversation to, did you look into AppD? What is AppD telling you? AppD has a lot of answers, not all the answers, but a lot. But to make that process go faster made a huge difference. We updated our process. Obviously, this is not the only technology play. To that exercise, we went through the process. Surprisingly, for quite a few of them, we just got rid of them. To the question, why are we doing that? If there's no good answer, we just got rid of them. So there was a very good feedback session that was not actually expected initially, because we just thought we would get ideas. But it really turned out a different type of conversation internally. So that was great. And we found the right partner internally. As mentioned previously, we got champions in every group. They're the one who drove the show. So that's when we went from firefighting, the old way that we were deploying AppDynamics. Only a couple of nodes here and there. Let's look at a new release, to this is now part of the process. QAs will look at it this way. Our perf group will look at it this way. It was a big deployment. It was about, roughly, 8-fold more agent, roughly, that we deployed. So we deployed all that, made that HA. Because we host in Canada, we had to go on premise. Our customers, our contract states is in Canada, so we would have liked to go SaaS. So if there's ever an option to go SaaS in Canada, we'll look into it. We trained a lot of people. We drank our own Kool-Aid. We're very strong on career development, continuous learning. So we train in less than 12 months, roughly 80% of our people, from developers, QA, SaaS operations. That was a necessary process to get everyone on board, but also to make them communicate. We did cross-pollination, so we made sure that through sessions, you would not only have developer in one session, you would get QAs in the same session, you would get SaaS operation people, so that this flow, people would see the benefit and make the connection across groups, not only within their own group. Another part of that, we made sure we had champions sitting in those training. So some of them, one of them is actually in the room, actually maybe did the training 2 or 3 times, but he was there to make sure people had the right angle on how we were looking at deploying it. Because obviously, if you send a developer to that train, the first thing is going to say, woohoo, I'm getting access to production. We had to take that step back, say, guys, this is the plan, this is how we want to make it happen. And that proved to be highly successful. People understood where we're going, and they were not going to one manager or one director to get feedback or information about how the project. They knew they had a lot of resource internally. So that was a very good thing we did. We also, the ROI, we went for quick ROI. We didn't went for an all-in ROI of within a year or two, this is how much we're going to go back. We had some of those metrics, but we said, okay, let's go for the low-hanging fruits. And again, engagement. Are the people better? It's for our developers, it's one thing to say I'm going to buy the tool. It's another one to actually say, you didn't only talk the talk, you walked the walk. You went for it, you deployed it, you trained everyone. And just that, to see where the direction in which we're going, made a change for some of our people. So that was a key element for us. That was part of ROI. There was ROI very clearly about how we deployed it in terms of, I'll talk about that later, but from a people standpoint, we saw a big difference. That extra communication was not happening before. That change that we drove in, we also had to be careful. There's a maximum amount of change people can deal with in a certain amount of time. So in our experience, we realized that for some of the elements, it would take a bit more time. Say more time, not 2 years, but maybe 18 months. It's a reality. We focused on empowering people, so tools like the war rooms. I mentioned we decided not to have developers in production, but having one way to look at it, when you get a developer in a war room, he knows what he's looking at. He knows what to ask for. So it's a different ballgame. He knows the environment. It's just a door he can go in, but he knows exactly what's on the other side. So if he is building a dashboard, he can ask somebody else to redo the same dashboard in production. It's just unifying the way you look at it from end to end. So that, although it looks simple, for us was a big benefit. Unifying the language around performance and how you look at it. So we went from regular transaction performance to business transaction performance. So, some old companies would say, okay, you have that top 20 transaction take the longest. At the end of the day, does it impact my customer? Does it impact my business? So going from those transactions to the business transaction is also a difference that helped our people, because you have performance people, so well, this transaction is 3 times longer. You know what? My customer won't feel it. Does it really make a difference? Am I bugging a developer to improve something that, even if it was 10 times slower, wouldn't really make a difference? You want to make it faster, but you have so many tokens, you got to decide where you're going to put your time. So it really changed the conversation there. We started to identify some of the outliers. So AppD took a lot of the noise away from the signal. So this is, AppD is obviously against the notion of AppDex. So it was the opposite of NADEX for us. Is okay, this stands out, that stands out. So we started to see stuff we couldn't see before. To use the word if someone is in the room, we also solved an issue that we had documented for 3 or 4 years at least. I've been there 4 years, so I know it's been there for a while. He called it a sweet mystery. At some point, he realized through AppD, we've been looking the wrong way. We're getting, he's got all the details, but we're getting 500 in the browser. At the end of the day, it shouldn't be 500, it should be something else. It's an authentication issue. The kind of problem where it's painful enough that it bugs you, but not hyper-rating enough that it gets to the top of the list. So that kind of stuff that gets on people's, yes, it keeps on bugging you all the time, but the odds of having it fixed are fairly low because you will not have the time to investigate. So we started to see some of those go up because it was so easy to identify them. We started to potentially fix some of them. So that's the kind of value we got from AppD. That's maybe a bit more technical than we had before. And finally, when it came to compliance, we look at how we deployed the role in AppD. We took our RACI chart for compliance, all the roles that we had. It always goes back to who has access and who can see which data. So we didn't split hairs there. We didn't reinvent our RACI. We took our RACI and mapped the role down, but that made it very easy for us, although we have very strict requirements for segregation duty, to implement AppD. Because we do have people who have access in production. What should a network person see compared to an application person, compared to a DBA? Do I let my system administrator see stuff in AppD? All those questions for us for compliance was a big deal. And again, we wanted to unify everything. We didn't want network guys to look, they still have some of their own tools, but we didn't want them to start in their own tools and never have the tool that everyone could work with. Same for application people. Some of them do read GC's and find errors in them. Easier than I read English and find errors in the text, but that's not the most common way of fixing issues. So we really unified through that. The big benefit for us, and I'm going to go through the main takeaway for us. Again, I mentioned maybe 10 times already, the one unified view. We reduced our mean time to resolution in certain cases up to 70%. So that's a big one. It's the investigation process. It's making sure that people will go through what is being discovered. And again, not making it painful. So that was a big benefit. As a company, we still have the benefit for our customer, the business outcomes for us is we have engaged customers, happy customers. Our brand is still the same. AppD contributes to some of that. You know, I wish I could tell you deploy AppD and all your customers will be satisfied. It's maybe not exactly the way it works, but it's one component for us. Our Saas team, very proud of them. I'll give credit to the leaders above and underneath me who do a tremendous job, but remains highly engaged. We increased our operation velocity by about threefold over the last 13 months. We grew our staff by, I'll say, less than 10%. We did grow, but it was very small. And you can look at our financials to see how much revenue we added over that period of time, but we scaled. It really made a difference. It was one piece that contributed to it, not the only one, but for us, it was part of the solution. So we really scaled well during that window, and our people are still engaged. That's a key factor. You can push a lot of stuff on people and think you scale, but people will get disengaged. We still have a very high number when it comes to engagement in our team. Very proud of that. And that's pretty much what I had at this point. If you want to go for questions, I might actually be 5 minutes faster than I expected.
Cool. Well, thank you. We're going to open it up to questions now. I know I've got one question for you. So, what was the kind of main challenge? Obviously, you adopted AppDynamics pretty quickly. You mentioned about change being a challenge. What was the main challenge?
Change is hard. It's good, but it's hard. I would say we involved a lot of people. If I had to redo it again, I would involve the same people, but even faster. And at a certain stage, we worked with AppD, and people were happy to be involved, where it might have been, even on our side, we could have brought other groups even earlier in the process. We did it, but we could have done it even faster.
Is it a culture change then as well, or the way people use, obviously, monitoring? And
It's to get their input on how we're going to solve the problems. It's really get their feedback. The session I mentioned, we got that. It was great, but we could have got that maybe even earlier in the process. Yeah. Again, it's the idea of not making this a one-person solution, trying to get this as okay, everyone is buying it, and then let your expert drive it. So we could have done that even faster. And
if you could give maybe 2 recommendations to success with AppDynamics adoption, what would they be?
Find your champion. Even if you think you're the smartest man in the room, and you could actually be, still find your champions in your groups and every other groups. And 2, take feedback as a gift. Very, very important. Get people's feedback. If you go in there with your own agenda, you might be successful, but it's going to be way more painful.
Cool. Okay, any questions from the room?
You had talked about a strategic investment for an ROI focus. Yeah. Did you have numbers and a benchmark, or was it strategic, meaning we're going to throw money into it and hoping it produces something?
No, I can talk to you about that offline. My team will not like it if I make that as a public statement.
Cool. Any more questions? Questions? No? Oh.
Maybe a similar thread, but what has been the impact? Like, have you been able to measure a change in velocity?
Yeah, as mentioned, we increased our operation velocity by about threefold over the last 13 months. We scaled our team very efficiently without any problem while maintaining that high level of engagement, so that the increased velocity was at least threefolds. In certain cases, it's up to 10. It depends on where you look. But being conservative, it's 3 to 10 fold depending on what you're looking at. in terms of operation velocity.
Wow. That's impressive.
Any more questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Phil. That was a
Pleasure.
really interesting presentation. There should be a feedback form on the next slide.
Nope.
There
There you
There you
go.
are. So I encourage you to submit feedback to this session for your opportunity to win an Amazon Echo. So if you text to 878787, I've got that right, AppsPhee, you'll get a feedback form in order to fill in, or link to go to the presentation to fill in a feedback form. Well, with that, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Phil.
Thank you for
Round of
being here.
applause.